This is the final word story time, 244. Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon with you for this edition of our weekend history show, now turned into a book. More about that in a sec. We're here for Morris Blackburn Lawyers, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. 244th show. I'll tell you immediately that Test Cap 244 for England's men was the great Les Ames, the interwar wicketkeeper sensation, the only keeper to have made 100 first-class hundreds and all the rest of it. We've told this story before. It doesn't feature in the book.
We have.
Plenty of others do. Jeff, how you going?
Good. Les Ames, as I like to call him, the loves, perhaps, in French, if you really squint at it. There are stories that are about love in the book. There are stories that are about wicketkeepers. There are stories that are about much more obscure players. There are stories about defrauding the Catholic Church, which is probably my favourite because my word. I've got a book in the mail, Adam. I found a contemporaneous book about the Arthur Conyngham story about the guy who tried to loot the Catholic Church in 1899/1900. There was a contemporary reporting book written at the time by an anonymous author about the case, and it's quite hard to find. There are dilapidated old hardcovers, and I've had one sent from New Zealand, which is waiting for me when I get home to Melbourne.
Is it possible, given that Connie represented himself in court, that he also wrote this anonymous account?
He might have done. If there was any way to make a quid, and he did flee to New Zealand, so I have my suspicions.
He did operate in snake oil.
Yeah, yeah,
literally.
Yeah. What was he up to? So
well, we've all been accused of that. You've got this book on order at the moment.
It's been posted, but it got posted to Australia. So what I'm looking forward to more than the Ashes is getting back to Australia so I can tear open this parcel and see if it lives up to my expectations.
Given that we've started here, let's do that. We've got some news to report on book stuff. So by the time you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure it'll be on social media that our UK, in fact it is, I saw it got posted by the publisher about an hour ago, our UK book launch, we are doing one event. Yes, there were discussions of two. Yes, I may have committed to two, but we've realised why are we trying to do two events in 3 days when we can do one brilliant night, and it's going to be held in Vauxhall, so safe final word territory. The Jolly Gardeners, which is on Black Prince Road, not far away from the Vauxhall tube stop. It'll begin, it's a Monday night, it'll begin at 6:30. It'll be hosted by Daniel. Why not? Given he's hosted as many, after you and me, the third most episodes of Storytime is Daniel, so a number of his stories have featured in the book. So that makes sense for him to be emceeing the occasion. It'll be followed by an Ashes panel with you and me, Jeff. We'll be joined by Phil Walker and Joe Harmon, who are the Brains Trust there at Wisden Cricket Monthly. They've been running that magazine for years, and it'll be great to have the four of us talking Ashes together. We'll, of course, be raising money for the Lord. It's a free event. There'll be a raffle because every free event, when I worked in politics, Jeff, if you got a free event, you do a raffle. And I've decided this raffle will be for the Lord's Taverners because they're our people.
Why wouldn't it be?
And they're Daniel's people too. So we'll be raising money for the Tabs, but crucially, you'll be able to get a book and then you and I can sign the book and it will be very nice. And we won't keep you there all night. Like we're not, oh, you know what? There might be a quiz, but not like the big sort of all singing, all dancing quiz that they sometimes do as part of book launches. There'll be a more casual quiz that might get done on the night, which will be fun to participate in, but won't keep you in situ until 11 o'clock either.
So first question on the quiz is, do you want a book? Second question is, where is your credit card? Yeah, that's how we'll do it.
And Robert Dipier-Domenico is going to come and sell it. $9.99. So you'll be able to buy it for a tenner. Bring £10 with you.
Actually,
bring 20. Bring 20. Buy £10 of buy £10 of raffle tickets. Be a good person and buy a book, and it'll be great. So there's an RSVP. Thacker, Matt Thacker, our dear friend and publisher now, is the RSVP. Matt.thacker@forwardpress.uk. But that'll be in the show notes, so don't worry about having to remember that. We'll make sure that Tubes pops that in the notes for this episode on social media with the flyer and all of that. And while I have you on this note, the 27th of November will be the Melbourne book launch at the Commercial Club. I mentioned this on the weekly show. Our great mate, Paddy, who runs the pub that's been our home ground forever. It's the last season of the pub, which we all are feeling. But we're better to do it. And I can tell you, Jeff, great news that I've received from Paddy overnight. Everyone is being given a beer on entry to our book launch in Melbourne. And that's because Stomping Ground, who we've been talking to recently, what a great beer they are. We've been drinking the Stomping Ground at Paddy's forever. They're chipping in a keg for the night, which is just such a lovely thing that. So Justin, who is one of the Supremos there at Stomping Ground, who listens to the show and he's tied the threads together. So you'll be able to head along, buy a book. We haven't worked out who'll MC that, but it'll be someone from the Final Word family. There'll be a prominent former Test player or a prominent journalist or something like that between the first and second Ashes Test matches, 27th of November. That will be when we do our thing at the Commercial Club in Melbourne. Jeff.
Yes, the Commercial Club is where it has that huge, heavy stone bar that we've sat at. We've recorded episodes there. We've wandered around behind the bar at times, pretending that we work there. And pretty much every time I go in there, it's a sequence of Stomping Ground hazy pales. So I like that it's all come together.
Did you remember
that's the tap of choice?
Do you remember when we got a bit too carried away there and we recorded an ep to a live audience of people at my annual drinks at that pub?
Yes.
Probably 50 people watching us do a World Cup daily show that we had not watched. It was an ill-considered episode.
We'd watched parts of it. We just were in no state to talk about it. Yeah, it was on the TV in the pub.
And then we immediately realised that this was a dreadful idea, and that episode thankfully never saw the light of day, and we recorded it the next day.
I realised that about 3 minutes in.
It weren't good. Weren't good.
The shots that you were firing were probably not publishable shots. And I was like, I'm going to let you finish. Like, we're going to complete this recording just because I'm not going to interrupt it halfway through. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I still have it somewhere. So be warned, Adam.
Never.
Be warned.
Yeah, it's like great blackmail material. Max Bennell's written another book, Jeff. No, I know I said it's most weeks on the show. I was corresponding with Max during the week, and he told me that you went on, last week you were talking about John Kinloch, and Max wrote us a note saying, actually, there is a book about him. You'll be pleased to know a biography of John Kinloch, which I know because I wrote it. So that's Swift Underhand was the book in question, Jeff, and he added a few notes here as well.
Well, John Kinloch's the fella who ran out Mr. Huddlestone at the non-strikers end, 1862, and didn't get told off about it because, as Max told us, it was considered to be a clever piece of cricket, the opposite to attitudes today. Max has said he's been trying to have Mancad rebranded as Kinlochs, but it hasn't lodged. We've just got to accept that even the people who say that you shouldn't call it that, we treat it as a tribute. It should be honoured and honourable. But yeah, Max, is there anything you haven't written a fucking book about? Like, is there any danger of us being able to tell a story without you bobbing up and going, I've written the book about that already? Leave a little meat for the rest. Leave a few scraps for the remora suckerfish that are swimming around attached to the bottom of the sharks. Come on.
Gideon made a similar observation on his blog last week saying, Max has written another book. I don't know what he hasn't written one about. Yeah, he's so prolific at the moment, and more power to him. I actually haven't properly finished the Charles Marriott book yet. I will, because I will have him on the show to talk about it, which is his most recent release. Jeff, we are 10 minutes in. It's probably the right time for us to start talking about the thing we're here to do. And we do it through the medium of, and we do it because
Pledge. Nerd Pledge. The game that we play with the lovely people on the internet. Many people listen to this show, and some of those people decide, I would like to help these gentlemen make the show. I would like to pitch in. There is always a hat, a digital hat that's always being passed around. I'd like to throw something into it. And then when they do that, instead of it being a $5 or a $10 or whatever it is, they get very specific about it. They make the number specific, and then that number hints at something to do with cricket. And then we have to figure out what the number means. And this is how we do it. For instance, Tim Minchin, not that. Tim Minchin has sent $7.34. So that decimal point could go anywhere. I could interpret that number in any way I want, 734. And Tim sent a clue, doesn't have to send a clue, but I've now got to try to figure out what does 734 mean when we incorporate this clue, Adam.
I haven't looked at your answer yet. I'm going to see if I can work it out on spec here. So thrice a premier.
You will not work it out.
I just saw premier. I thought political leader. Who was premier 3 times? Thrice a premier, but not a
Jay Weatherald. Opening the batting end.
Twice a lion, but not a Lankan. Okay. Once a bear, but not a Brummie. A veteran who played a single match for his country, but not a DOB. Twice a lion, but not a Lankan. That's got me thinking. I'm having a bit of a brain explosion here. Victorian batsman who was the Victorian captain who coached Sri Lanka to the 96 World Cup.
Dav Watmore.
Dav Watmore, but he played for Australia, didn't he? So it can't be.
Yes.
I say twice a line. I wonder whether he played for Fitzroy Doncaster, but not a Lankan. He wasn't a Lankan, but coached for Sri Lanka. I guess he was Sri Lankan by extraction.
Played a lot more than one match.
Yeah, so that doesn't work. Bear, but not a Brummie. Brisbane Bear. Brisbane Bear, but not a Brummie, but doesn't feel quite right. Thrice a Premier, but not at home. I mean, he was Premier 3 times. Who actually got elected 3 times as Premier? Steve Bracks did. If we're doing an answer about Steve Bracks and his massive hands, maybe that's for another day. I've never met, honestly, and I've met Stuart Lowe. I've never met a bloke with bigger mitts than Braxy. Fucking unbelievable thing to see. If you ever get the chance to shake Steve Brax's enormous hands, do it. That's all I'm saying.
He's got Stuart Lowe covered.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Seriously. And they're really warm and giving, as you might imagine, with a warm and giving man in Steve Bracks. Listen, Zax. Right, where are we?
Okay.
34, Tim Minchin. I'm nowhere, clearly. Go for it, Jeff.
Well, you mentioned Stuart Lowe, and you mentioned Lions, and you mentioned Bears. So we may be floating in this direction. And this is funny to me for a couple of reasons. Okay, one, later on this show, the second answer that I'm doing will be for a pledger named Alex Brown. And Alex Brown is from New Zealand, and Alex Brown is the most vocally discontent listener that we have when we stray onto the topic of Australian rules football.
Also when we fuck up the audio.
Yeah, and a range of other things.
Fair enough. Whenever Alex sends a message saying something's not quite right here, we're like, we better get on that because it's reflective of a wider audience. You know, he's a one-man focus group.
Yes, but the thing about I am from New Zealand, I do not care to hear about football, that is not an unreasonable position to take initially. Although I think, and I will have this out with you now on the show, let's do it live, Alex, that sometimes, for instance, when we like a discursion, we like to wander off on a tangent. On this show, we had a long tangent about how there had been fewer Geelong football coaches than there had been popes since 1996, right? Now, I think that complaining that is a conversation about football is not a valid complaint because you could equally complain that it's a conversation about the papacy and you guys talk about Catholic structural religion too much. You know, there's the hierarchies and power structures. Like you can't really complain about it being about football because it's not about football, except in that it happens to involve somebody who's involved with football, right? Like we're not talking about who should play on the halfback flank for whoever. But
very happy for Storytime to go in that direction as well, because that's kind of the idea that this is a type of show that doesn't have the structure of the weekly show when we're trying to rattle through sort of 12 topics or whatever it is, or a daily show when there's scorecards to recap for those who haven't seen the game. And this is the one, if you're going to get away with talking about Geelong coaches and popes, it's going to be on Storytime.
Yeah.
And there's a book coming out about it on the 10th of November.
That is not strictly about football. And so I have enjoyed the fact that this answer is going to involve football, and it's also going to be an episode that Alex will have to listen to because his answer's on it, and he could be furiously skipping this, but he probably isn't because we're talking about him.
No, so he's not.
He's going to have to wait. Listening. He's going to have to wait and see. This answer involves a footballer, but it also involves a cricketer. And it is thus legitimate. As Sam Perry has observed, cricket is footy, footy is cricket. Footy is invented by cricketers. Footy is played by cricketers uniformly at first, so it's only cricketers who play it. And then later, these days, still a lot of footballers play cricket in the other season and so on and so on.
My favourite is we've just gone through, a fairly rugged trade period. It drew a lot of attention. And it was this time of year, I think it might have been in trade period, just after it, in about 2003, when David Loates, who didn't have much of a career for Hawthorn as a senior player, did play on a flag for Box Hill in 2003. That was a really happy memory, happy moment with a group of friends 2001, sorry, Loates played in the flag, 2003 grand final. But he did hit 100 in a cricketer's game, a footballer's game of cricket, where a whole bunch of, I can't remember the context of it, but in the summer, after footy season, they got on the Docklands ground under the roof, and Big Loader hit 100, and he was better known for making a ton whilst a Hawthorn player than he ever was for his ruck work, you know what I mean? So there still are from time to time these intersections.
His best stay at Colonial Stadium was that one.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So somebody who was Tasmanian, this wasn't worked into the clue, but thrice a premier, but not at home, twice a lion, but not a Lankan, once a bear, but not a Brummie, played a single match for his country, not a dusty old bastard. Okay. Alistair Lynch is a footballer who played for Fitzroy and
the
for Brisbane. He was born in Burnie in northern Tassie. He played at Fitzroy, who were the Lions. Then he went to play for the Brisbane Bears.
Yep,
then the Brisbane Bears merged with the Fitzroy Lions to create the Brisbane Lions. Twice a lion, once a bear.
Perfect. He's the guy that took the 10-year deal when Jason Dunstall said no. I'm not saying Dunstall didn't consider it. Obviously, he nearly went home to Brisbane and took the 10-year offer. But Lynch did. And in the end, didn't Lynch end up playing more years than that? They had to tack on another year.
I will come to that in due course. So, thrice a premier, yes, they won 3 premierships, but not at home. Well, not at home because it wasn't in Tassie, but also not at home because Brisbane had to go to Melbourne to win their 3 premierships, because that's what any non-Victorian team has to do. They have to travel in order to play, because the grand final is always at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So this all fits so perfectly that it must be Alistair Lynch. And the other part of the equation is that he did play cricket after a fashion for Australia and also for Tasmania, which we'll come to in a moment. So born in Burnie, along with Justin Hazelwood, the veteran philosopher. I don't know if they catch up. Don't know if they have a lot to chat about, but perhaps it's a town in the north of Tasmania if you are someone who doesn't know about Australian geography. Bit of a rough nut, basically, not wildly into footy, and there's a turning point where he's 16 or 17 and he crashes his car because he's driving around too fast on the icy roads and skids and loses control, and basically his dad goes, "You're going to run into trouble if we don't get you something to do." And so he hooked him up with a footballing great called Peter Hudson, who was coaching in Hobart, who Adam could talk about for a long time, and I probably won't let you do that because
don't let me do it.
No, yeah. I'm not going to.
I wonder where was Hutto coaching? Was he at Glenorchy then, or was
Hobart.
he at
the
New Norfolk?
TCA?
No, yeah, all right, he's coaching them because because Hutto had that. It was 1979 when he went back. There's a book written. I read the book about it about 5 or 6 years ago when Hutto kicked nearly 200 goals, and there's that ridiculous grand final at Glenorchy. But yeah, he played for New Norfolk as well, I think, Hutto.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, please continue.
Yeah, so Alistair Lynch is, he's dropped out of school year 11. He's gone to work on the hydro projects down the coast in Tasmania. He's doing, manual jobs. Not sure what he's going to do with his life. Can play footy a bit, but isn't sort of set on that path. And it's this link with Peter Hudson, who's a great at the game, but who's also gets very invested because he knows Alistair Lynch's dad. They decide that they're going to turn him into a footballer, and they do that. He's got this great story of if you don't know anything about football, Royce Hart is an all-time great at the game, and he comes down to do some coaching sessions. And so Alistair Lynch is describing like Peter Hudson kicking the ball while Royce Hart is telling him how to take a pack mark and like simulating a pack situation so that Lynch can fly in and try to mark the ball.
That is insane. That is 2 Team of the Century members. That's Royce Hart was the AFL Team of the Century member in 1996 in centre half forward, and Peter Hudson was in the pocket. I'm pretty sure with Coleman at full forward. Should have been Hudson at full forward. But you're talking about 2 of the greatest ever in the history of the game, 2 of the greatest forwards ever who are just doing drills with a teenager.
Yeah, you're in a cage doing batting drills with Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, right? Like it's
exactly.
Nuts.
Brilliant.
So this sort of gets him perks up his interest, and he's playing in Hobart and eventually gets on the radar of the VFL with David Parkin's coaching at Fitzroy and ends up at Fitzroy. Interesting sort of career initially. He's that case of the key position player who goes to defence and then goes forward and switches back and forth between the two. The Royce Hart training for pack marks pays off. He wins Mark of the Year in 1989 with this huge pack mark that when Lynch is playing forward and he throws himself over the top of this pack and gets up so high he takes a chest mark in the end and knocks over 3 North Melbourne players and lands on them all. It's quite, go and look it up. It's worth a watch. And then one day he gets thrown onto Tony Lockett, who's a great full forward, and he manages to stop him kicking any goals for the rest of the game. And so he gets landed at fullback for a long period of time. So he's won the best and fairest at Fitzroy in 1993. He's All-Australian that year, and then Brisbane come to him and they're shit house. They need big players, and they offer him a 10-year deal, and it is 100% supposed to be corrupt. Like, they basically explained to him that, yes, this is a corrupt deal. He's like, I'm not going to play for 10 years. And they go, no, we don't expect you to play for 10 years. We expect you to play for as many years as you play for, and we will pay you for 10. So it's a way to get around salary cap stuff by, oh, you've got this salary cap. Okay, well, we'll spread out this payment to this player over a longer period of time. Then they're going to play. And then, so he goes there with that expectation. But like you say, ends up playing for 11 seasons and gets an extra year whacked on the end.
Yeah, it was wild, isn't it? Because he played that 93 season with Fitzroy, which is their last season when, they genuinely had moments, and we documented this on the greatest season it was. But taking a quick squiz here. So Lynch kicked 68 goals, didn't universally play forward. I reckon one day he kicked 8 against Collingwood in a half. Like, he played fullback for a half, full forward for a half, kicked 8 there. But yeah, 68 got you in those days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He was 7th in the goal kicking, equal 7th with Sticks and with Adrian McAdam. What a season that was, his breakout season in 1993. But, Modra, Ablett, Dunstall all kicked a ton. Summer, 76. The Horse kicked 75. And Severio Rocker, what a player, kicked 73 in his first major season for Collingwood. And then Alistair Lynch, he kicked 68 goals these days. You're winning the Coleman outright. Or near enough anyway. It shows
every
how
second year
game's
probably.
evolved. Yeah,
big time.
Used to mean a lot more.
So he gets lured away, and basically he feels very guilty about this. It's controversial at the time because he's such a big name. Fitzroy, he loves Fitzroy. He doesn't want to go, but he's like, they're offering me, I think it was $1.8 million.
Feels about right, yeah.
In that era's money, which is a huge amount of cash, and the security of, like, you can play for as many years as you want, basically, and be locked in. So there's an interesting interview with him where he talks about going to, like, he went to talk to the supporter groups himself and explain why he was doing it, and to not apologize exactly, but to tell him how bad he felt about it, and to explain his reasoning, which is quite a bold thing.
It was a big deal because it was just when that Nauru thing was happening with the ownership stake in Fitzroy, and they're just trying to, Hall Lacey was trying to keep Fitzroy together with sticky tape, and their best player leaves. And Roosie left before the end as well, didn't he? Roosie left in end of 95, and Fitzroy's last season was 96. But the club was defined by Lynch and Roos in that early to mid 90s period, and like sort of to lose their most dynamic match winner in a season where he, won them multiple games at both ends of the ground. You look back at the very sad demise of Fitzroy. Had they held on for just 2 more years, they would have been party to the next TV deal, and they may still be around now, where they may still be here. But it was just like the club wanted one club to go. They had been on life support in different ways for about a decade, and and so it proved. But one of the saddest days in the history of the Victorian game was when Fitzroy eventually got merged out of existence.
Yeah. And so Lynch is there for that. He's at Brisbane, and then he's at Brisbane when they become the merged entity. Has his moments through the 90s, but he then has those seasons where he starts getting chronic fatigue, and so he's unable to play for, misses one whole season almost entirely.
Massive story that. Remember he got suspended. Remember he went to the tribunal and had to fight why he was. He had to argue.
It was
why
for the medication he was taking.
The medication he was on when he had chronic fatigue. It was that was the biggest story in footy. And then, he missed so much of the game before, and then he got back and got fit again and got medicated in the right way before they go on the surge and the 3 flags.
Right. So, so they win towards the end of his career, 2001, 2, 3. They win premierships, and then 2004 they lose the grand final, and he goes out in a flurry of punches when he gets pissed off at a fullback and tries to take his head off.
Darryl Wakelin.
Yes, got 7 different charges at the tribunal. So the number was 734. 734 could be 7 charges, 3 flags, 4 grand finals, if you wanted to dice it up that way. It's an interesting.
Weeks.
I went down a rabbit hole on a Reddit thread with a ship of Theseus question, which is like, so Lynch plays for the Fitzroy Lions, then goes to the Brisbane Bears, which then become the Brisbane Lions. Did he play for 1 club, 2 clubs, or 3 clubs? How do you define it? What's philosophically, is it
Yeah.
Is it 3
that's a
different
tough
football
one.
clubs?
I don't
Or
know.
is it-
I would ask the defining say on this will be Glenn Finkeld, who is unfortunate, or Adam White. Adam White's another who obviously struggled after what happened in '96 as Fitzroy supporters. Like, do you classify as a Brisbane Lions fan? Glenn and Whitey both don't.
No.
I wouldn't. If Hawthorn had merged in '96, I never would have watched another game of footy again. I never would have watched another game in my life had they got merged out of existence. So,
It would have given you a lot more free time.
I would have definitely had a different life. No way I would have watched footy again. Not with any emotional investment anyway.
Yeah. So look, and the end of career suspension, he gets 10 weeks suspension, but he's retiring anyway, so it doesn't matter. George Coulthard, our favourite 1880s umpire, got suspended for an entire season after a brawl. So on the field, I don't know if it exceeds Alistair Lynch. I don't know if it was 10. The season probably wasn't 10 games in those days. Anyway, why have I talked about all of this? Because he's also a cricketer to some extent, but this is well after his footy career, right? So, Adam, the pre-season 2007-8 Australian season, there's a competition, which I do not remember, called the Interstate One-Day Pre-Season Challenge. And it contains not just the Australian state sides, but a New Zealand 11, Alex Brown, if you're still listening. And it's not a New Zealand, quasi-New Zealand team. It's a second div kind of team. There are some familiar names, but the young versions like Grant Elliott and that sort of thing in this New Zealand 11. And then 2008-9 preseason, I can't find any formal structure for preseason games. I can't even find any games. I don't know if there were any like warm-up matches. But certainly 2009-10, there are warm-up games again, but they're not in a tournament. And in one of these warm-up games, in fact, it actually happened. The approach first happens the previous year, which is why, but it might be 07. I'm a bit unclear on that. I can't find a game in 2008 that it could be. There are games in 2007 it could be, where basically because they're warm-up games, some of the state associations have said, let's just rope in a random sort of high-profile person to come and play. Not quite
like the Joey Johns thing.
Not quite Joey Johns, because that was that was actually a Big Bash game. Like he genuinely played for New South Wales in an official non-warm-up match, right? But Tim Coyle, Tim Coyle's the Tassie coach at the time, and he's like, yeah, sure, let's ask Alistair Lynch. He's from Tassie. Right. I don't know why. I'm like, what cricket pedigree he's got, I'm not sure. He's got to be like 40 years old at this point. He's well retired as far as being a footballer, but he's supposed to play in this warm up game for Tassie, and then he bowls in the nets the week before and like pulls all of the muscles in his side and just can't bowl. So he's like, fuck it, I'm out, I'm cooked. And they go back to him, whether it's the next year or 2 years later, this is the bit I'm not clear on, but they go back to him in 2009 and they actually get him to play a game against Queensland. So, he's moved to Brisbane, he's a Brisbane Lions, great, all the rest of it. And now he's playing for Tassie against his adopted state. And they bring him on towards the end. Oh, well, we better give him a jam roll, just give him a token over. He knocks over Chris Hartley, the wicketkeeper, who made fucking 150 or whatever it was when Queensland chased that score of 400 around that time, could play. And he cleans up the tail. He takes 3 for 5.
Oh, what?
at the end of the innings. And that's it. So he's got a Cricinfo profile for that one warm-up game that he played for Tasmania.
Alistair Lynch played... How do I not know this?
Alistair Lynch played for
Tasmania.
Not in a list A game. It wasn't formally gazetted, but in a match, a miscellaneous match. I can send you the scorecard.
Unbelievable.
No, there is no scorecard.
I'm looking at it right now. Well, no, there is.
There's a partial scorecard.
It's got his name. Its teams listed. Tasmania. Yeah. Born in Burnie, 50, and
he's got a profile.
And it's classified as other T20, so it doesn't get a Guernsey as a
right.
I guess that's if it's in the miscellaneous tab on Cricket Archive, probably. You're right. It's got the
It is.
It's got the summary of the game.
It lists some of the players, but there's no actual scorecard. So
Tasmania win by, and it was played at. Doesn't say where it was played at. It's all pretty limited here.
No, I had to find out. Runs. I had to find out what happened through.
Who else played? George Bailey captained. Jason Frazier, living the Vita Loca, living the crazy life. Michael Dighton, Tim McDonald, who went on to be the England women's bowling coach. Great man. Hello, Tim. And then for Queensland, who we got here? Nathan Reardon. You mentioned Chris Hartley. Chris Simpson. Alistair McDermott. Ben Cutting. Still floating around. There's some names there.
Yeah. So it was a legit game of cricket. It was a warm-up game, but it was a legit game of cricket, and he took 3 for 5, and he contributed, right? So that's in 2009. And then, again, how this happens, I don't know. This is the lead up to this, I can't track down. But 2018, 9 years later, there is a game for the Australia over 50s versus the England over 50s at Bexley Oval in Sydney, 45 over match. Coming into bat at number 6, A.G. Lynch, who top scores, makes 73 from 42 balls. What was our number? 734, 73 from 42 deliveries.
Right.
Yep, 734. And is the only one who makes, so it doesn't top score. There's a score of 75 there as well. So there's a 73 and a 75. And Lynch has made the 73. Gets them up to 233 in their 45 overs. They hold England short, bowl them out for 206. Lynch in the wickets, open the bowling as well, if you don't mind. 1 for 28 off 7. Maybe 7, 7, 7, 7, 2, 4. Anyway, he's bowled 7 overs and he's taken a wicket, and he's affected a run out. I don't know if it was at the non-striker's end or not, but he's a major contribution, and he hasn't played another Australia over 50s game, but that's it. He got a cap, he got a blazer. He's an Australian player in a sense. He's a Tasmanian player in another sense, and he's a 3-time premiership player,
Absolutely.
double lion, single bear. Alistair Lynch.
That is just brilliant. Thank you, Jeff. Alistair Lynch played for the Aussie over 50s, and he's done so, dare I say it, before it was cool. Like, overage cricket is a massive thing now, right?
Yeah.
But there was Lynchy, so committed
8 years ago.
Committed to, there'll be presumably people I've played with and against who were involved in that.
There's a picture of him in the full blazer, like he's got, being presented with an Australian blazer.
That should be my stretch. That should be my stretch goal, shouldn't it? Like, I'm 41. And of course, people are going to drop off at a rapid rate of knots playing cricket in their 40s. My stretch goal should be to try and get an overage Aussie gig at 50, to still be going low enough at 50 to burgle a spot in one of the Aussie teams.
Yeah, you and Sawanji.
You headed here first. Terrific. Thank you, Jeff. I'm mindful we're due a break. We'll come back and talk about Maurice Blackburn in a moment, but it's a great answer to start. The great Tim Minchin, thank you for your support throughout the stretch of this podcast. Back in a moment on Storytime 244. All right, this is Storytime. It's brought to you by me and him and Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, of course, who are Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. We've been telling the stories of their clients and what they do, and
their lawyers. The team. When the team comes together to take on insurance companies who don't want to pay claims.
So telling the story of Maurice Blackburn and, yes, as you say, Jeff, they're the lawyers as well, one of whom had a client they assisted named Casey, who was struggling with anxiety, depression and PTSD, having experienced domestic violence, and that was followed by a bitter divorce and supporting her children, and then her mental health declined rapidly to the point where she could no longer continue working as a nurse. She believed she had TPD cover and lodged her own TPD claim, but the insurer pushed back. Maurice Blackburn took over the claim at that stage and argued that because of her unique situation and the fact that she lacked insight about her mental health condition, the delay in seeking treatment shouldn't prejudice her claim. The insurer ultimately agreed to pay the TPD lump sum in full, which was over $250,000. And they pursued another $50,000 on interest on top of that because of the unreasonable delays. That enabled Casey to achieve financial stability, securing permanent and safe housing for herself and her children, and importantly, allowed her to access additional private mental health treatment, which she couldn't have afforded otherwise. So another example of where Maurice Blackburn, working on behalf of hardworking Australians who find themselves in dreadful situations, and much of the time in the superannuation, super insurance space, that's on a no-win, no-fee basis.
Thank you, Adam. Maurice Blackburn, the links are in the notes. They've got offices across Australia, so drop them a line if you need help. Most of the time, it's no win, no fee if they decide to take on your case. So talk to them about that. And we will talk to you about our next number, which comes in from a long-time pledger, familiar name, Matt, near the Gabba, who is sometimes near the Gabba, sometimes nearer the Gabba than others, sometimes very near and sometimes a few kilometres away. $3.44 is the number, Adam. Matt says, I've updated my pledge. $3.44 is correct, but really I perhaps should have pledged $1.61. It is a first at the Gabba. It has happened since, but I'm surprised it took so long to be a first. What is it?
Well, it's a first on more than one front, and I only realised one of these when watching back some YouTube clips, and it took me by surprise. I like the one, and by the way, Matt's been a terrific supporter of ours. I remember when we first used to email. He used to email to my public-facing email address, which I don't check too often, but I have it on my phone. I used to reply via email, and at some point I said, you should really join our Patreon, and he did, and he's been a great member of that community ever since. So Matt near the Gabba, great to have you back. But yeah, I like the answers where I have a pretty good memory of what happened in it, and it didn't take long for us to work at. This was about Aussie Test Cap 344 for the men. Our Christmas guest from last year, Jeff, a man who was always near the Gabba himself, Ian Healy Heels, and we're talking about his
the
161 at the venue, spot on. The first keeper to get a century at that ground, and Ian Healy's
that the first?
And also Healy's first 100 at Brisbane, which you could also say there were a couple of easy firsts here, but I just thought first Aussie keeper to get a ton at the ground. I get that Matt's surprised by that. That must be it. And on we march.
Well,
and that would have been perfectly reasonable, right?
One thing with Australian keepers, which is surprising, is how few hundreds there have been, because Rod Marsh was the first Australian keeper to make a Test 100.
Yeah, it's a good point. So maybe it isn't as
Marsh.
Yeah. So what it actually is, and this there'll be in a moment in about 5 minutes when I reveal what this is. That's more interesting for lots of reasons, but we're getting there, believe you me.
Right.
So back to 1996.
Marsh makes 300s. Healy makes 4.
And there wouldn't have been 100 for a keeper between times. So Healy had made...
And no one else has made more than 4 except for Gilchrist. So Gilchrist was 17, and then Australian keepers...
Brad Haddon made more than that, didn't he?
Brad Haddon made 4, I reckon.
4 as well. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, back to 1996. Bring back 1996. As the Wombats once sang. Indeed. What a year. November 96, I remember that test match, that first test match. I had been on school camp that week at Shiloh Ranch. I remember that as well, which meant we missed the Friday. Because you know what I'm like, Jeff. You can imagine what I was like at school when the first day of a test summer. I would have the Walkman on, earpiece in. Like there was no way I was missing what was going on at the Jabba. But that year I did. I remember listening to some of it on a bus, long coach back from up near Mount Buller or whatever it is. But yes, I remember the next day, with being the Saturday when he completed 100, my own cricket. We were playing that day. I was the occasional scorer for our third 11 at Endeavour Hills back in that era. But yes, was watching the cricket briefly at home before going off to the seniors. And yeah, this first test of the series against the Windies, Michael Bevan's there at 6, which meant no Greg Blewett. Ponting's playing his 5th test match, but his first at home as number 3. He'd actually been at number 3 in the previous test, which surprised me when they played that one-off match at Delhi. But then Ponting was dropped shortly thereafter. And the other big one here, of course, is Matthew Elliott on test debut against the Windies that week at the Gabba. He replaced Michael Slater, having played that dreadful shot that Slater was dropped for, and he whooshed it one way outside the line of the off stump. By that, I mean it was nearly a wide. And he was caught behind in what became the first ever Border Gavaskar test match. I won off at Delhi in 1996 when Sourav Ganguly started his long rivalry, I suppose, with Australia with a century in that match. And yeah, speaking of starting points, it wasn't a very good one for Elliott. A 15-ball duck, much to my dismay, I suppose, when we would have came back into radio range or something like that. He was caught behind by Kirtley, which is no point of disgrace getting nicked off by Kirtley Ambrose in 1996. Ponting, I mentioned before, he got dropped not long after this match. He did get 88 on the first day of the series, batting at 3. So gives a reminder of just how brutal things could be at the selection table in the mid to late 90s for Australia when they were trying to work out where all these puzzle pieces fit. And yes, he didn't get back until the 1997 Ashes, which is where he makes his breakthrough ton at Headingley, and the rest is history, as a podcast might say. Anyway, Mark Waugh, I remember, made 38 and got hit on the head by Ian Bishop ducking into a bouncer. I can visualise that shot. And And Bevan got a golden. He was bounced out by Courtney Walsh. Now, we, in the live show with Michael Bevan a couple of years ago, did a fair bit of debunking about the way his test career played out with the bat, especially his later series prowess in 96, 97. He made some really important scores in really tough conditions, especially the innings at Perth. But yeah, in this first innings of the series for him at home, he did get bounced out. And Mark Taylor was the only other scorer of note, making 43, to the point where Healy walked in with Australia in some trouble at 196 for 5. And of course, because Bevan got a first baller, Healy's walking in on a hat trick. So, they are a wicket or two away from being in real strife, remembering that they'd beaten the Windies in 1995 away from home, but it had been a long, long time since they'd beaten the West Indies at home. Got to go back to the 1970s for that. So, yes, Brisbane, it's a beautiful look watching that hat-trick ball with the shadows lengthening. This is before Brisbane had the 360-degree stands as well. They come in a couple of years later. So you can still see the Clem Jones stand, which stood for many decades there before it was taken down. That's where Dean Jones hit that massive six when he made his 145 there against England in 1990. But yeah, nice to see that the Gabba, and a reminder of what the Gabba was before they kind of ruined it. I think personally that the worst thing they ever did was make the ground look the same the whole way around. It meant that the people talk about the trees there and the scoreboard there and the Clem Hill stand there, and the Clem Jones. Why I keep saying Clem Hill? I mean Clem Jones. If I say Clem Hill 4 or 5 times there, I'm thinking about it.
There was a hill.
Cricket.
There was a hill, and there was Clem.
Obviously,
there's a tunnel. There's a Clem Jones tunnel.
The man who was the mayor and also the curator at the Gabba at the same time, among myriad other things, Clem Jones. So if you're listening to your podcast speaker saying, he keeps saying Clem Hill, I'm glad I picked it up now and not at the end of the answer. Anyway, we'll move on. So Ian Healy, before long, he's cutting his way to the close in that very familiar fashion with Healy when he used to bat with his bum poked out. He would lash those balls through backward point. And yeah, he'd enjoyed success with the bat quite a bit to that stage in his career. I have a great memory of him going in as a night watchman at Sydney in 1991 and in hitting at number 3, making 69, which was his first test half century, I'm pretty sure. And he did a little bit of night watchman duty, but over time he became more important than that, often as that sort of nuggety, traditional, annoying runs number 7. And by this stage, he'd made a test 100 at Manchester in 1993. He'd made one at Perth, I think, the year before. But, this still had resonance because it was at the Gabba, at his home ground, where he was, by this point, the state captain and all the rest of it. And he's batting so well. The second new ball, he carves 2 balls away for 4 straight away. Bill Laurie declares, it's a superb knock this, because, it's still far from safe harbour with him and Steve Waugh batting through to stumps. He picks up his 1,500th test run before the close of play as well. And he kept cutting all the way to stumps. Bit of extra context here is that this is just when Adam Gilchrist is floating around. So in the Shield final that ended the previous season, Gilly had made that masterful 189 not out from 187 balls, which was otherworldly. That these are numbers that were inconceivable in red ball cricket at the time. So even though Healy was widely seen as the best keeper in the world and arguably the best gloveman Australia have ever had for pure wicket-keeping ability, this was the first time, you wouldn't say there was any heat on him. It's just a point worth considering that Healy did have a very clear, very obvious guy who was going to be the next man in. And, by stumps, they're at 282 for 5. He's up to 47, still batting with Steve Waugh. Straight back into it in the morning, cuts away again to raise that Kookaburra bat for a 50 as the new day starts on Saturday morning. They put the third man back and he's kind of toying with him. He hits a boundary one side of third man and the other side of third man. And on commentary again from Bill Laurie saying what a fine player Healy is when the pressure is on. And I think that's about right with Healy. He often saved his best performances for Australia with the bat when they were under the pump. And this is clearly an example of that on day 1 of the series, walking in on a hat-trick and all the rest of it. I remember watching that passage of play leading up to lunch when he was batting really well with Paul Rifle. Lunch, they're out of trouble. It's 360 for 6. They've only lost 1 wicket on morning 2, but Healy's on 97. So the longest 40 minutes going to that break, 3 runs away from a century. But then just after the break on 99, he tucks away a single And an iconic moment in his career on a Saturday afternoon at the Gabba. They go absolutely wild. I, as I mentioned before, I understood the reference of this being rare about the Gabba and Healy and wicket keepers more widely.
Yep.
But then splashed up on the screen, which they go to on television, he's the first Queenslander to get 100 there. But he isn't really the first Queensland player. They caveat it and say the first Queensland-born player to get 100 there. Well, Chappell, Kepler Vessels, Alan Border, all would have obviously got hundreds at the Gabba. Well, I know Kepler did. I know Border did. There might have been others too, but well, maybe not. We rattled off the three obvious ones, but still, the first Queenslander to have actually done it. First pure Queenslander, you could say. So third century of his career. Australia get 479. Right. Healy is 161 not out when this is all done. He's been out there for over 300 Australian runs.
It's like the Edgbaston thing where no Birmingham, the Warwickshire player has made 100, test 100 at Edgbaston.
Really?
Right?
Surprised I didn't know that. But when you consider some of the Warwickshire greats, that's a good stat. So Healy's the first to do it like that. They end up bowling at the Windies for 277. Australia go again, by the way. They'd only force the follow-on, which was unusual in that era. 217 for 6, declared with Healy, 45 not in addition to it. So he makes over 200 runs in the test match without being dismissed, which is nice. Then they bowl out the Windies for 296 and go 1-0 up with a fairly commanding 124-run victory. And there's no doubt about it, Ian Healy, for the first time in his career, is adjudged the man of the match. He does get a second test 100 at the Gabba 2 years on from that when they smash England. He finishes with 4 in his career, 22 other half centuries, a batting average of 27, which is most appropriate for a keeper in that era. Famously, the winning runs at Port Elizabeth in 1997 with a 6 over deep square leg, which is his last great moment with the bat. Well, it's not really. He gets that 100 at Brisbane later in the year, but it's a late career moment that people often remember, him hitting those winning runs when Australia was 7 down. And the last of his kind in many ways. And as Bill Laurie said, man for a crisis, Ian Healy's finest day with the bat in Test cricket, a special one for Queenslanders and wicket keepers alike. That 161 or 344, as Matt near the Gabba had the pledge.
Thank you, Matt. I wonder how many other pure Queenslanders, Marnus and Joe Burns are the only two I can think of who've made hundreds at the Gabba since.
Yeah, Marnus wasn't born in Queensland.
I get at least played his whole state career there. Like I wouldn't really count Khawaja, although he insists now that he is now a Queenslander.
Yes, I'm just thinking, just doing a quick pick here.
Joe Burns in the New Zealand game in 2015 or 16, whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Is there another obvious Queenslander that we're missing? I sort of feel like them.
Matthew Hayden.
Be. Oh, there you go, Matt the Bat. How do we miss him?
Probably
he's hard to miss.
10 of them.
It's hard to miss. There'll be someone else. I'm sure there's someone yelling at them.
Quite a few Gabba 100.
At the speaker again, going, yeah.
Did
I was watching the cricketers.
Gabba 100? I don't think so.
I don't think he did. Remember the and also Andrew Simons wasn't born in Queensland either, was he? He was born in
England.
Born in Birmingham. As it turns out, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's Birmingham.
Yeah. It was.
So
for sure.
Yeah. There'll be someone else we're missing here, Jeff. Again, someone will be yelling at their podcast speaker saying, "You idiots!
You idiots!
It's him."
It's Clem Jones, you dickhead.
When he wasn't doing everything else, when he wasn't rolling the pitch.
Somebody who may still be yelling at his podcast speaker from earlier is Alex Brown, who has sent through $15.60 in USD. Now, I don't know why this is, because Alex is from New Zealand, lives in the UK, but it comes with a clue, Adam. It is a brief clue, but it is a useful one.
His remarkable total is 88 at the time of writing, and this is the day it went better than that.
Okay.
88. I think we did a whole discursive bit about 88 years ago, didn't we? About who might wear cap number 88.
Well, there's quite a few players who have it on their backs.
That is sometimes tattooed on certain arms.
Yes, Adam Zampa wears it.
I don't think for those reasons.
No,
I
don't think it's
I don't
the
think
same
he's a
reason.
Hitler enthusiast.
No, I don't. No, I'm not drawing that comparison. Just saying that it's actually quite a popular. One of the New Zealanders has it. They're perhaps, unfortunately, in terms of names, the Dutch off spinner Aryan Dutt wears 88. He's of South Asian extraction, so again, I strongly doubt it's for those reasons. But it's just so unfortunate little quirk of the naming and the numbering system. Regardless, let's move on. 88, Alex, is the number of sixes that Tim Southey had hit about a year and a half ago. And it stayed the number of sixes that he'd hit for a little while because he the second test against Australia, this was in March 2024, he hit 1 6, went to 88 career sixes, and then didn't hit one against Sri Lanka much later in that year, about when was that, 12 months ago? And then managed one after that in the second test against Sri Lanka, and was coming towards the end of his career, looking to get to 100. And this was something that I followed quite closely at the time. So, Alex, this wasn't an answer where I had to go and look up a lot of stuff because I was quite obsessively doing the Tim Southey race to 100. Because, it is funny to me that somebody with a test average of about 15 is fourth on the all-time six hitters list. He finished his career on 98 test sixes behind only Gilchrist, McCullum and Stokes, which is absurd that Tim Southey hit more sixes than Chris Gayle, more sixes than Virender Sehwag. Still ahead of Rishabh Pant, maybe not forever, but at the moment, more than Rohit Sharma, more than Brian Lara, more than Chris Cairns, more than Viv Richards, Andy Flintoff, Matthew Hayden, Misbah Haq, all of these six hitters, MS Dhoni, none of them hit as many as Tim Southey did. And the bit towards the end was quite interesting because I'm sure he went into his last series against England, like he knew he was going to retire after those three tests. He had 93 sixes going into the series, and I'm positive it must have been in the back of his mind that he'd like to get to 100.
Yeah.
Right?
The way that he played in that, I can't remember how many sixes he hit in those last couple of test innings, but he was batting like a man. I remember a couple of years ago watching Michael Hogan bat at Surrey, who had the record for the longest career ever not being dismissed league before in first-class history. And his legs weren't in the same postcode as the stumps, knowing that this is a record he could feasibly hold forever. The same applied for Southey here. He batted in a way that gave himself every opportunity. If he made contacts, as often as he required to get to the end point, he wasn't going to let any ball not at least have the chance of going the whole journey.
Well, this is the funny bit, right? So that first test in Christchurch, doesn't hit a six in the first innings. In the second innings, he hits 2 sixes and is out for 12. So
perfect. Meant to be.
It's only 2 scoring shots.
Absolutely.
However, at Wellington, he's out for a duck in the first innings. What was it? First ball? I think it's first ball. So no joy there. And then he hits a 4, but he's out for 8 in the second innings. So doesn't hit a 6 in the second test. And coming into the third test, he makes 23 that contains 3 sixes in the first innings at Hamilton. So 18 of his 23 runs. Gets to 98, has his last innings, and only lasts a couple of balls, and he's caught for 2. So he falls short on the final burst. He could have tried to hit the 2 more in the last innings that he played in Test cricket, but that was not to be. But what Alex is talking about, the day he did more than any other is on debut, many, many, many years before that in 2008. This doesn't mean that he hit more than anyone else has hit, because Southey hit 9 sixes in an innings that day. That's not the record all time. Wasim Akram still holds that record remarkably from 1996 when he hit 12 sixes against Zimbabwe, and then Jaiswal equaled that in Rajkot last year when he was toweling up England.
Early last year when he made a double 100 there.
So he hit 12 sixes that day as well. That's still the record. There's a raft of players who've hit 11 in an innings, and there's some quite notable innings. So Nathan Astle's record-breaking double 100, the fastest double, he hit 11 against England. Matthew Hayden did it against Zimbabwe in his triple. There are 2 Brendan McCullum 11s, but neither of them are that world record 100 against Australia, which was the fastest but wasn't quite big enough to contain 11 sixes, I guess. There's the Stokes double century in South Africa when he went crazy, and Kusal Mendes did it against Ireland. So those are players who've hit 11. Wally Hammond, once he had it put back on, hit 10 sixes in Auckland in 1933. And then equal on 9, there's Chris Cairns has 9 against Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe feature in this list a lot for leaking the most, getting absolutely punted. Inzamam did it against New Zealand in Lahore. Chris Gale did it in Gaul in that remarkable innings. Shimron Hetmeyer did it in Mirpur against Bangladesh when West Indies were being smashed and they'd been forced to follow on. And he was like, well, fuck it, I'll just hit everything for 6. So he did. And Stokes at Lords in a similar situation, I guess, when he was taking on the Australians in 2023 and losing the game.
Oh, yeah, it was that one, right?
Hit 9 that day.
Hit a bunch in the 2019 100 that he made as well. But yeah, 23 more acutely, wasn't it? 23 was when he was trying to really clear the ropes as often as possible when they were all fired up after Bairstow and Carey.
All fired up. So 9 is not the record, but it is Tim Southee's record, and it most remarkably happened on debut, and it happened like the Nathan Astle double or the Shimron Hetmeyer bit. It happened in a game that they were losing heavily, and so he figured he might as well just take it on. So England went out there in 2008. They made 253 in the first innings. Nobody made any runs except for Kevin Peterson, who said it's very difficult being me in this dressing room, as he made 129. And Stuart Broad was the second top scorer with 42 back when he was more confident with the bat. New Zealand got rumbled for 168 in their first innings. That's when Ryan Sidebottom takes the 7 for. And then England figure it out and go big in the third dig. They make 400 plus, declare. Strauss batting at 3. I've forgotten about Strauss batting at 3. Made it 177. Ian Bell made 100 in that passage where they go, oh, Ian Bell only makes 100 when someone else makes 100. Well, yeah, okay, but if he hadn't made that 100, they wouldn't have been in a very good position. They set New Zealand 553. So it's not going to happen. Wickets are falling. A few half centuries, they make a score. They make a reasonable sort of score. But Tim Southee's coming in at number 10, which means, what are they? 8 for 329 when he comes in. They end up on 431 because he hits 77 not out from 40 balls at number 10 with his 9 sixes.
Imagine he had have completed the job there on debut and got to 100.
Oh,
like just imagine that. A player on debut achieving that, because he would have, had he reached 100 in all probability, he's smashing the 56 ball record at that point, isn't he? I know it's 54 balls now, but it was 56 then.
Well, true, yeah. 40 balls to get, so he'd have 20-something deliveries to get 23 runs. He'd have 26 balls to get 23 runs if he'd gone.
Yeah, he probably would have got there in 12 or 13 balls based on the ratio. Like, imagine Tim Southee on test debut had a 50-ball 100, and that remained the record
at number 10.
Ever after at number 10. I mean, it would just be one of the... There are a number of remarkable statistical outliers in Test cricket that would be up there and in the running for, based on what happened in his career, for the most remarkable of them all. And being on debut would have similar vibes to the Bannerman, which was never broken, and so on.
And he didn't not go on; he was not out because fucking Chris Martin got bowled by Ryan Sidebottom. Although Chris Martin lasted 21 deliveries, which is probably up there with some of the longer innings of his career. So I suppose he did his job to at least let what happened with Southee happen, and Southee was just taking them on. So 9 sixes in that innings on debut, second innings of his career, and then he never went anywhere close to that ever again. I mean, he hit, I think, 6 in an innings once in a similar situation in a losing kind of game. But for most of the rest of his career, like there are innings of 1 or 2 sixes, and there are a few innings with 3. And there's 1 innings with 4 and there's 1 innings with 6, but there are a lot with none. And there's, there are half centuries he makes where he doesn't hit sixes, where he's playing a little bit differently. There are times when he's trying to be more responsible. There are times when he's a leader and all the rest of it. But, and so through that middle to later part of his career, there are not a lot of sixes from about, say, 2018 or 19 for a few years. He doesn't hit a lot of sixes at all.
There's a big day out I remember there was a big day out which we wrote about in Wellington in 2016. And that was like the feat. At that time, that was when I think you first had your interest peaked in this and thinking that this could actually happen. The 100 sixes and rode it all the way to the finish line.
I did actually. He hit 3 sixes in the second innings in Wellington in 2016. That might have been it. And he made 48. Duck in the first innings, 48 with 3 sixes in the second is very, very Tim Southey areas. So the number that we got sent initially, which was $15.60, thank you, Alex, relates to the average that he had at the time. Before he went to 89 sixes, his test average was 15.69.
Perfect.
And it ended up at 15.48. So the 1560 matches up to the average there. And Tim Southey started with 9, never reached 9 again, and ended with 98 and just a couple away. You'd be tempted to play one more test series, wouldn't you? Just to get it over the line.
I think he was, with all the respect in the world, with all the respect in the world, he was very lucky to keep playing after his 100th. That would have been one place when he might have jumped off. Thank you, Alex. Great man. Thank you, Jeff, as well. Before we go to the break, I'm naughty. NordVPN. Naughty tonight. I am off to Brazil in, I guess, a couple of weeks, something like that, for my week.
Claro.
My week there with Cricket Brazil on which is going to be brilliant. There'll be lots of final word programming coming from Brazil. I am fairly confident that Celebrity Traitors will still be going on when I am in Brazil. And owing to just how big a TV show that is, there is simply no way I'm going to be able to look away if you don't want to know the scores right now, right on the tip of my tongue style. I'm going to need to watch iPlayer in Brazil. Mm-hmm. That's what it boils down to. I'm going there with John Surtees. Surtees, in all probability, is at least at some level engaged with Celebrity Traitors as well. Maybe he and I will have a watch-along party in our hotel room, in one of our hotel rooms. We're not sharing a room. That would be unorthodox.
Adventurous.
Of course we could. I
know I've asked this question before, but I've forgotten the answer to it. Is it Traitors with a D or Traitors with a T?
Traitors. It's very good. Rach is into it like enormously. I'm sort of into it, but into it enough that I don't want to run the risk of finding out whether Stephen Fry's won it or not won it. I need to know, right? I'm going to have to watch it. A bit like when I was in Zimbabwe in 2018 and the only season of Love Island that anyone watched. And I was there in Zim covering the Australian T20 series and NordVPNing in to the ITV equivalent. But yeah, nordvpn.com/TFW. That is the reason I will be able to know who is doing well and who is not doing well in Traitors when I'm away in a couple of weeks.
It sounds like people who are celebrities for being traitors. Like the ultimate, Judas has to be the top ranked celebrity traitor. You know, who's the most famous traitor? Judas.
Get him in there. Get him in there next season.
He's at number one, but who's on the podium? Who's rounding out
who's been
the top three?
We can send in your thoughts, info@finalwordcricket.com. But yeah,
Lord
it's good.
Haw
I mean,
Haw.
I spent half the show saying to Rach, who's that? What are they famous for? Who's that? What are they? Because I've got a fucking clue, right?
The UK has the worst celebrities.
Well, I mean, I think they're all credible. The only thing is, like, they're Dancing with the Stars or Strictly Come Dancing. I can't remember. I never really know what it's called. Strictly Dancing with whatever it is Strictly in short. #Strictly. I watched the first ep each year, kind of with Rach and she hates how I do the same thing. Who's that? Why are they celebrity? Who's that?
Yeah.
And one of them I did recognize. He's one of these fucking Trump grifters online who I guess he's got a catch cry or something like that. I don't know which one of these. It's not the Bosch guy, but someone like that. I'm not comparing the Bosch guy to this guy, but
I think the Bosch guy's on the other side of politics.
I think the Bosch guy's good. I think the Bosch guy. I think we can be.
We've come around to that.
Cool with the Bosch guy, but someone who has a similar like
Javo
catch cry or something like that. And this guy, and somehow the BBC have like played their role in rehabilitating him by putting him on the fucking highest rating TV show in the country. He got voted out, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Maybe he didn't get voted out. But anyway, I don't know who
Just
these people
broadly
are.
Speaking, though, I'd like per capita, I reckon the UK has more shit celebrities, like people who are notionally famous within this very small pool for the most mundane, boring stuff. And people are like, oh, don't you know who blah, blah, blah is? It's like, well, why would I possibly?
It's like when there's a cricketer on Strictly, it's a huge deal. You know, they've won it. Like Ramps won it. Goffey won it as well. Goffey and Ramps both won Strictly in the years they were in it. But you don't get cricketers on it too often. I think Vaughan might have did it. Swanee did it. At the time were working together a little bit here and there and doing some BBC stuff. And he took full advantage of them getting him super fit beforehand and looked svelte when he was on Strictly. But yeah, cricketers, when they're on, it's a thing. Nitro from Gladiators is on, so Winnie's loving that because Nitro's perhaps the most engaging gladiator out of the new season of that. Where are we? nordvpn.com/TFW. We're just talking TV now. That's okay. If you want to join with the show and have us talk about TV when you got your brand reads on, adam@finalwordcricket.com. No better time to link up with the Final Word to talk Ashes and whatever else. If you're in the UK especially and you want people waking up to your brand story being told to our biggest ever audiences, and they're going to be, make no mistake, our biggest ever audiences, just get in touch. adam@finalwordcricket.com. We are at the moment in market for a UK-facing sponsor. Make that be you. And if you know someone who might be in the market, tell me. Is that enough? Should we move on?
Sure. Yeah, we should have a break.
Right. See you in a sec. Final word story time. Fucking shambles today. Got to get Winnie up from Peggy. Don't get
her mixed
Peggy
up
up from her nap soon. So I better do my last answer. It's for Simon Trafford. 5:57.
The day that my dad went through, who's talking to my sister, and he used both of the other siblings' names and then the dog's name, and then got to her name at the fourth attempt.
Yeah,
it was a day that was remembered by that sister, and everybody else was reminded of it on a regular basis.
Yes. That'll happen. That'll happen with two little girls. Right, where are we? Simon Trafford. Oh, Simon Old Trafford, our mate who was there shooting so beautifully the Wormsley game. He took some glorious photographs of our Wormsley game back in August. He does his finest work at Notts, though, at Trent Bridge, where he's been shooting them and watching them play forever. This clue will relate to that. Jeff.
Yes. Okay. Simon is... It's almost always, and we generally know that that's what it's going to be related to. And in this case, New Pledge, he says, goes back to a memorable 3-day match I watched as a junior member. So yes, it's got to be there. The membership was there. And if we're spitballing his age, junior member, you'd be looking 1980s, I assume.
Yep, exactly that. And the first thought we had was that it might be the an infamous match in 1984, but at Taunton. Didn't quite work, but I feel obliged to at least tell you about this to begin with here.
Okay.
This is where Notts lost the championship on the third last ball of the season in 1984. There was nothing here for 557, so we moved off it. So
I know this one. I know them. We mentioned them botching 1928, was it, or 7? Arthur Carr's team lost to Glamorgan.
Might have been. Yeah, it's the year after it's the year after he lost the captain. Yeah, it was 27. I'm pretty sure because Carr was captain in 26 before losing the captaincy mid-series. But
tell me this one.
1984, year I was born. You thought 2025 was close. Bloody hell! Where of course Notts won it. Well, it all comes down to a game in Taunton where Notts need to win to overtake Essex. In summary, Essex had already finished their campaign. Somerset 274, Notts 222 for 7 declared. So trying to give themselves time to set up the game, which makes sense. Somerset 244 for 5 declared. And that means when Botham's pulled out as captain of Somerset, he set Nottingham 297 in 60 overs to win the championship. Absolutely beautiful stuff.
Glorious.
Doesn't get any better than that. And it looks like a cripplingly difficult chase to watch. 70 for 1. Good start. Then 70 for 1, 70 for 2. Bang, bang. 92 for 3. 136 for 4.
Ooh, okay.
199 for 5.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's a good partnership.
199 for 4, you're bullish. 199 for 5, you're worried.
And another big partnership gets them the 258 for 6.
200, so they were 258 for 5. Oh, fucking,
just before that.
Surely you're winning it from there. That's like the Dan Lawrence partnership with what's his face.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Tom Curran, that was right. You're spot on. And then they lose another wicket, 1 run on from that, 259 for 7. Then it's 260 for 8. They lost 3 for 2.
Bad.
3 for 2. Okay, and they're still 37 away.
Yeah, now you're
They lose their 9th wicket with the score on 287, 19 away. Dream gone. Nobody told Michael Ball.
That's Shapur Zadran. That's the Afghanistan-Scotland game. They needed 19 for the last wicket.
That's good from you. The Canberra Afghanistan win. What a great World Cup that was, truly. But then no one told Michael Ball the dream was over. Took 1 wicket for the match. Hadn't made a massive contribution. He was there at number 10. Before the ninth wicket. They needed 36 off 3 overs because overs caught up with them as well. The wickets and the overs had all converged upon them. So they've just got to go for it, right?
Right.
And they get it down to needing 14 from the final over. Bore's swinging is working. He's into the 20s. He's on strike, and he's facing a bowler by the last name of Booth, Michael Booth, I think. Stephen Booth, of course, Stephen Booth. This attack, by the way, pretty good. Both of them, Martin Crowe, not sure why he took the new ball, Vic Marks, and Stephen Booth. That's the attack of 4. So they've done pretty well, acknowledging there's 3 internationals there to get so close to the target. Booth to Bore, first ball 4, second ball 4, 6 to win. It's on.
4 days.
It's on. 6 to win. He, with 4 balls to go, he edges one to third man for 2. Sorry, they need a 4 to win.
4 to win.
Then he blocks the 4th ball of the over.
Why'd you do that?
And no one really knows why he blocked it. He said later he didn't think that was the right ball to go at. Still 2 balls to go. Boundary to win the championship.
Sure.
5th ball, takes it on. High, out towards deep mid-wicket. The Nottinghamshire balcony are on their feet. It's going. It's going. It's going. It's taken by Richard Ollis, the sub-fielder, winding around the boundary 10 feet inside the ropes. So if you assume what the parabola of the ball would have been, that maybe it's not quite going for 6, but if he doesn't take the catch, it's certainly going for 4. Instead, they've lost the championship by 3 runs with 1 ball left from the penultimate ball of the season.
Why'd you hit it in the air, Mike Bore? Why'd you hit it in the air? Go along the ground.
I suppose that's what
you're hitting for.
I'm sorry to Simon for reliving that bit of trauma, which I'm sure he was following.
I just got quite excited by the result of a cricket match from 41 years ago.
Yeah.
That's sad.
So back to a happier moment for Simon then. So 4 years earlier, which is his actual answer, a tour game, a 1980 tour game versus Australia, you say? Yeah, that's because when they went for the centenary test, in 1980, they played a lazy 5 first-class games and 2 one-dayers before the test match.
Why wouldn't you?
So we've got a lot of chat over here this week about whether there should be tour games or not. Botham's had his say on his new podcast. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, oh, God, are you kidding me?
Another one.
Stop it. There's enough.
Yeah, I reckon there's been...
We were here first, so we get to keep going, but not everybody is allowed. There's got to be a limit. There's got to be like TV licenses.
There must be half a dozen new podcasts that have popped up in the cricket world in the last 12 to 16 weeks. I'm not sure who's listening to all of these new shows. Maybe they're...
And particularly when it's just career pundits. Like, you've been a fucking commentator for decades. Like, we've heard it. Whatever you got to say about whatever it is, you don't need AI to do this. Like, I can just write it myself. What's both of them going to say on this subject? Done. I'll script that for you. Like, why bother?
Yeah, there's a commission in that for you somewhere. But yeah, both of them said on the podcast this week they should be playing more tour games. Gooch said something similar, and so on and so on it goes. Pete Lawler wrote about that on Al yesterday. But yeah, it's a proper month of cricket as well, by the way, before the centenary test. They play a tour game on the 6th of August against Hampshire, 10th of August against Surrey, 14th of August against Young England. That's a 2-day game. 16th of August against Lancashire. Then there's the 2 one-day internationals. And before they get to Lords for that very damp and in some respects sad week of history, because it wasn't, other than Kim Hughes being the absolute shining light of it, and probably the second most well-known thing about that test match is John Arlott finishing up as a commentator and doing his last ever stint. It's not a particularly memorable match, certainly not in comparison to what happened in March 77 in Melbourne. Anyway, I digress. Knott's actually had quite a bit of success in tour games against Australia. So they've played Australians, I should say, 35 times, and they've won 8 of them. So, it isn't like, trying to think, when Glamorgan beat them in 1964 and 1968, that's seen as like 2 of the most important moments in the history of Glamorgan because of the scarcity of it. But, Notts did from time to time when tour games went the other way a bit more regularly because they wouldn't play best teams and so on. But 11 losses and 16 draws. I haven't got the energy to trawl back through each one of these, but it's this one in 1980 was significant because they absolutely fucking thrashed them. And Simon was there as a young member, and that's what it's all about. So Australia all out 207, Graham Wood 76, Alan Border 73. Why did they make so few? Well, our number here, 557, 5 for 57, were the figures of a man by the name of Kenny Watson. What a great name, Kenny Watson. It's like a combination of Kenny Finkeld, Glenn's
Kenny
nickname,
Powers,
and Bubba Watson or Tom Watson. So Kenny Watson was a South African of the Clive Rice era, I suppose, at Notts. He was from PE, played for Border, played for Eastern Province. He was a right-arm fast-medium bowler. Played for Notts between 1976 and 1980 in a first-class career that more broadly spanned 1974 to 1992. So he just missed out on the chance to be a part of the official South African test teams. However, he did play an unofficial test against the Gooch Rebel Tourist, the Scab Tourist, sorry, is the right jargon there, wasn't it?
That's what we're going for.
In 1982. So he was of the...
Scab.
He was, in earlier parts of his career, he was of the best group of cricketers in South Africa. But yeah, relatively modest returns in England. Only a couple of fifers and 58 wickets, all up at 28, which are acceptable, but limited because there were restrictions on the number of overseas players, and Clive Rice was the standard bearer there. And when they were able to have two, of course, they had a bloke called Richard Hadley, and Clive Rice and Richard Hadley in concert. Well, it's one of the most famous modern county partnerships with what they were able to do with ball and bat. But on this day, it was Watson, Kenny Watson, who picked up 5 for 57 from 15 and a half overs. He got Laird early. He got Border leg before. Nallett, Tomo, and Pascoe cleaned up the tail. And then he was actually getting the new ball ahead of Hadley in this match. So Clive Rice and Watson bowled before Hadley did, as you do. Notts then smashed 465. Rice top scored with 90. Of course he did. Paddles, the all-rounder here, got 68 naturally. And then Kenny got 44. So one of his highest scores in first-class cricket was in this match after his fifer. So he was on a roll. And, you know, that's 44 against a pretty bloody good Australian attack. I know they don't do well in the game, but it's still Lilly, Thompson, Pascoe, Mallett. Like, it's the test attack. It's a proper attack. Lilly, it's an expensive sixfer. And then Australia bundled out for just 182 to lose by a massive innings and 76 runs. Kenny Watson completes his dream game, 5 in the first innings, 2 for 18 in the second, Laird again, and Ashley Mallett, which makes 7 for 75 for the match, plus his 44. And it proved to be his final game for Notts. He, because in tour games, you could play more than the 2 overseas, which is why there were 3 featuring in this game. In the championship, back to 2. So that was him done with Notts at the end of 1980. 5 for 57 remained his best figures. And Notts go on to win the comp in 1981 with the aforementioned combo of Clive Rice and Richard Hadley absolutely dominating that season and breaking the drought, Jeff, that went all the way back to 1929. You were talking about Arthur Carr earlier. And the teams that he played in, well, it was all the way from then, 1929, all that heartbreak and all those years of waiting to win it again. They did so in 81, and now in total have won it 7 times, having added to that trophy cabinet only a few weeks ago, and they've won it 3 times in the last 20 years, which is pretty good going. And I saw a photo that Simon took this week of Trent Bridge as I close out this answer, where they are rebuilding sections of that old pavilion, which I didn't realise that was happening. They're doing some, I'm not sure what's been the catalyst for it, but it won't look the same. I'm sure they're retaining some of the facade, but it'll be given very much a glow up, as is the modern word, isn't it? Before we get to the cricket there in 2026, they should unfurl the flag there, Jeff, given they won the championship. Unfurl the flag on the new pavilion.
Yep.
Get the club president out to unfurl the flag the way that, exactly. Round 3, round 4, something like that. But 557. That's the story in a nutshell for Simon Trafford of Kenny Watson when they annihilated the Aussies there at Trent Bridge in 1980.
Kenny Watson and the memories you can have of when that happened, because it'll never happen again, because they'll just be playing intra-squads or whatever it is that they do for the rest of their lives.
That's what they'll be doing. That game at Canberra when they're playing a pink ball warm-up game for the pink ball test match, right? Like, you know, it kind of makes sense to play a game at the Lions are now playing that. So I don't know why bother making it a pink ball game? Just play it in the daytime, you know?
Yeah.
It's now a pink ball game for the sake of it, because it's not actually going to be. They might send a player or 2 there, but it's fundamentally a Lions team or a Lions fixture. As it's been described. Jeff, I think we've come to the end.
That's it. We have done the show that we came here to do, which was, to talk about some things from cricket past and, as it turned out, football past. Sorry, suckers. We got you on that one. If your sport is running rather than cricket or football, please do consider the call out to join our Lord's Taverners Edinburgh Marathon team, which is next May. That's when the marathon happens. You don't have to run a marathon. You can run a half marathon. You can run a 10K. You can, I think you can even do a 5, can't you?
There is a 5, although I would advise against the 5. The 5's not really it's a thing, but it's not a thing on the day, on the Saturday. No one's really there watching the 5. The 10's an event because it comes first on the Saturday. But
if you are someone who thinks that you can't actually get through,
fair enough.
A 10. If you're someone whose physical situation isn't going to support that, there are options for you.
And also, if you're the sort of person who's doing that because they've never done anything like this before, that might help you fundraise. And that's the main game here. We want people to join up who have never done it before, who have got the thirst for the enthusiasm for fundraising for the Taverners and the rather remarkable work that they do. I mentioned at the start of the show they're going to be part of our book launch. We're doing a raffle and all of that, but every 30,000 for the first time this year. More than 30,000 young people have done a TAVS program in the UK. It's remarkable the work they do. It really is. Every bit of money that is raised is going towards making sure these young people, oftentimes young people with disabilities or have come from profound disadvantage, provided cricket as a chance for them in their life, and it fundamentally wouldn't be if not for the Lord's Taverners. That's why we love working with them.
And a chance for them to get into social situations that are otherwise difficult to get into, to be included in ways that are otherwise difficult to have them included. And that's the name of the game. So think about that. Think about
and if you want to do it, just cut straight to the chase. Just email me, adam@finalwordcricket.com. I'll get you in the WhatsApp group. I'll get you talking to Sadiq. It's a seamless process now. So email me. We'll get you sorted out. It'll all happen very quickly, and you'll be on the road with us at Edinburgh in late May 2026.
Right. And now we will tidy this up. Patreon.com/thefinalword if you'd like to join up with us and all of the other things that we do. There'll be a weekly show coming up next week. That's when it tends to happen. There'll be Women's World Cup dailies between now and then. That is it for us. Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins, Storytime 244. We will see you later.
Have a nice weekend.